This is example 6 from lesson R.2. For these two problems, we're going to multiply for A and divide for B, and then simplify our answers. Now, sometimes it's easier to simplify each of your expressions first and then multiply later, but in this case, there are no common factors in 15 that will allow me to simplify that any further, and there are no common factors in 21 that will allow me to simplify that further. So what I'm going to have to do for A is just go ahead and multiply 15 times 21, and that is actually going to give me 315, and then of course y times y is going to be y squared. All right, now we're going to break down the 315 and see how we can simplify this radical. I already know it's 15 times 21. 15 I know can break down into 3 times 5, and then 21 I can break down into 3 times 7. So it looks like I have a pair of 3's, which means I can bring a 3 out in front of the radical there. The 5 and the 7 are going to have to stay under there because even though there's two factors, they're not the same factor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply those back together. 5 times 7 is actually 35. All right, and now I'm going to take into consideration the y squared. That's just y times y, and since the index here is a 2, it's a square root, I need a pair. Well, I just so happen to have a pair of y's there, so I can bring a y out in front. I can put the 1 exponent on there because I have one pair of them, but I don't have to. Okay, and here is my final answer. Now for B, it might be easier if we wrote this all as one fraction first and then try to reduce that fraction before we took the cube root of everything. So let's try that, because I noticed by looking at this problem in the very beginning, I've got some very large numbers up here in the numerator. All right, so we've got 625. This is c to the second and d to the 10th. And on the bottom here, we've got 5. C to the 5th, and then D. That should be a 2 there. That should not be a 5. Sorry. Okay. Well, let's do our division and see what we have left over here. Okay. Now, 5 can go into 5 one time. 5 can go into 625 125 times. You can check that in your calculator. All right. Now we're going to check out the variables. I've got 2 c's on the top. I've got 5 c's on the bottom. So both of these can cancel with 2 of those and leave me with 3. So I have 3 c's down here on the bottom. And I have a d in the denominator. I've got 10 up here in the numerator. So this one can cancel with one of those and leave me with 9 up there in the numerator. Okay. Now, 125 we've already broken down several times this time. We already know it's going to be 5 times 5 times 5. And so 5 is the cube root of 125. All right. Now let's look at the variables. Here's our d to the 9th, which breaks down like so. All right. There's 3 d's. There's a group of 3. There's a group of 3. That means I can bring a d out. And I had 3 groups of them. And I didn't have any left over, so there won't be any d's staying underneath the radical there. And then for my c to the 3rd, there's my group of 3. It was in the denominator, so it's going to stay there. And I don't have any left over, so it looks like nothing's going to stay in the radical. And this fraction is now in simplified form.